Joy to the world. I am Pastor Susie Todd, and today we mark the third week of Advent, that season of preparation for Christmas. We await the incarnation of God. This week, we explore the joy that God brings. Joy is not easy in a world where the headlines scream, "Woman shot at local apartment complex," drone strikes in Iran, earthquake in the Philippines, war in the Holy Land. Violence in the place where the Prince of Peace is born. I've been to Bethlehem a couple times in my life. I have visited numerous churches there, including the one built on what is believed to be the site of Jesus' birth. I have visited and taken a workshop at the Bethlehem Bible College there, but the last trip in 2019 was the only time I have had the opportunity to visit a displaced persons camp, a refugee camp. The camp is known as Aida. As you come into the camp, you see the big key on the gateway. There are also keys around the gate. These are keys that women brought with them in 1950 when they believed that they were only temporarily displaced from their homes. They'd been forced out of the homes they had bought or been raised in, the places they raised their families in, the property they had cared for and loved for generations, so they hung on to the keys. And as they have died off, their keys have been used to memorialize their lost dreams. Aida was built to provide temporary housing for 1,200 people until they were resettled. 73 years later, these temporary hovels have been illegally added to because the population has grown to over 10,000. When I visited, the conditions were horrid, not dissimilar to what I witnessed in my time in Haiti. In the interest of not turning anyone's personal circumstances into an Instagram moment, I did not take any pictures inside the camp. This photo is a professional shot taken there, but it depicts exactly as I remember it. It's pretty desperate. There's no government services like trash pickup. Utilities like water and electricity, they're sporadic. There are lots of children, but only one school, and it's for boys only. Because there is a wall that deters residents from leaving, there are lots of unemployed adults hanging out in the streets. There's not much joy to be found there. Without joy, despair simmers just below the surface until it erupts. As we walked through the camp, there was a group of 3 kids standing in a doorway. They were probably 7 to 10 years old. My friends and I were talking among ourselves, not gawking because we wanted to respect the dignity of the residents. I had my head down. I was watching my feet when out of nowhere, the smallest of the children, a little girl, maybe 7 years old, ran up to me and punched me in the stomach as hard as she could. I was startled. I have no idea why she picked me out of the crowd, but she did. In that moment, I realized how insidious the threat of violence must be in her life and the deficit of joy that she possesses. I know that I represent to her something bad or evil or hurtful. I know that while she did not know my name, my story, or my person, she saw me as a source of pain. And she did the only thing a young kid can do. She struck out at me. Bethlehem is not a joyful place today, nor was it at the time of Jesus' birth. Jesus was born into a Bethlehem rife with upheaval. He was born in occupied territory. The Roman occupiers maintained a tense peace for most of the time that they occupied that region. But when frustrations ignited, the violence of the mighty Roman Empire overwhelmed the people. Displaced people have always been a part of Bethlehem's story. When Jesus was born, Bethlehem was filled with people reporting for a census. The town was crowded. Remember the whole "no place at the inn" thing? Strangers were everywhere. Even then, chaos was nothing new to Israel. Some 750 years before Jesus was born, the prophet Isaiah speaks into the chaos of people returning from exile in Babylon. The exile was a result of the Babylonians conquering the southern region of Israel known as Judah. They forced a large number of people out of their homeland and into captivity in Babylon. For 70 years, they were not allowed to return to their homeland. After 70 years, most of the people captured have died. The Israelites who were returning were either born in Babylon or were too young to remember their homeland. That's who Isaiah speaks to in chapter 35. He casts a vision of new life in an unfamiliar land. Here verses 1 through 10. The desert and the dry land will be glad. The wilderness will rejoice and blossom like the crocus. They will burst into bloom and rejoice with joy and singing. They will receive the glory of Lebanon, the splendor of Carmel and Sharon. They will see the Lord's glory and splendor of our God. Strengthen the hands and support the unsteady knees. Say to those who are panicking, be strong, don't fear. Here's your God coming with vengeance, with divine retribution. God will come to save you. Then the eyes of the blind will be opened, and the ears of the deaf will be cleared. Then the lame will leap like the deer, and the tongue of the speechless will sing. Waters will spring up in the desert, and streams in the wilderness. The burning sand will become a pool, and the thirsty ground, fountains of water. The jackal's habitat, a pasture grass, will become reeds and rushes. A highway will be there. It will be called the Holy Way. The unclean won't travel on it, but it will be for those walking on that way. Even fools won't get lost on it. No lion will be there, and no predator will go up on it. None of these will be there. Only the redeemed will walk on it. The Lord's ransomed ones will return and enter Zion with singing, with everlasting joy upon their heads. Happiness and joy will overwhelm them. Grief and groaning will flee away. Isaiah speaks to a persecuted people, unwelcome in Babylon, and no sense of belonging in Judah. They don't belong anywhere. And Isaiah offers them a gift, a dream for a future filled with joy. He gives them a vision of what could be. This time that we live in, between Jesus' birth and the fulfillment of God's kingdom, is sometimes referred to as the already but not yet. You see, Jesus said it like this in Luke 17, verses 20 and 21. Pharisees asked Jesus when God's kingdom was coming. He replied, God's kingdom isn't coming with signs that are easily noticed, nor will people say, look, here it is, or there it is. Don't you see? God's kingdom is already among you. Already, but not yet. In a lesser way, this time of year is an already but not yet Christmas season too. I already bought my gifts. I already wrapped most of them. I have already imagined the look on the faces of my children and grandchildren as they unwrap them. All the parts are in place, but still they lay under my tree, not yet received, beholding the promise of what could be. Like Isaiah's imagery of robust and fertile land, strong bodies, blindness and deafness subdued, and safety and everlasting joy, sometimes our visions, our expectations for Christmas can be a bit grandiose. Sometimes we buy a gift and the person doesn't react the way we hope. Sometimes we receive a gift and well, it's not exactly what we want. And sometimes it doesn't seem perfect right away, but it ends up bringing us joy in the end. I mean, who would want a circular plastic tube for Christmas? I remember getting a hula hoop for Christmas one year. I'll tell you what, they looked so fun on TV. So I put it around my waist, and I twisted, and I pivoted, and put it around my waist, and I twisted and I pivoted, and it landed at my ankles. Eventually, it landed under my bed. Yeah. So much pressure to get everything right, especially at this time of year. You're supposed to have a perfect tree, perfect presents, perfect children with matching pajamas, and perfect joy. That doesn't work out, at least not in my house. If we looked like this on the outside, there had been way too much stress and coercion to be joyful on the inside. Advent joy. The joy Isaiah promises the returning refugees. The joy that Jesus brings into the Roman occupation. The joy that gleans in our life today. It comes right in the middle of the chaos of life. Last Sunday before service started, I was in my office practicing my hula hoop skills. And let me tell you, it was not good. But I realized that learning to be joyful is a bit like learning to hula hoop. Sometimes we grasp it firmly in our hands. Sometimes we fling it wildly around ourselves. Sometimes it barely touches us. Sometimes it appears dormant, lying on the ground, completely useless. Sometimes we think we got it figured out, and then we drop it. A little joy, a little failure. A little joy, a little failure. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Luckily for me, I was not alone in my office. I had my Sunday morning BFF with me, Felix. That is Betsy's youngest son. Felix he may only be 5, but he is very wise. And when I told him I really wanted to learn to hula hoop in a week, he offered me this sage wisdom. You're really gonna have to practice a lot. Holding on to joy in our world takes practice. Now, I have some suggestions for your joy practice. 1, be physically active. Move your body. Staying active keeps us healthy, and health allows us to better engage with the world. Engagement increases the likelihood of joy. 2, dedicate yourself to others. Focusing on our own struggles and successes leads us to believe we're more important than we really are. Dedication to others helps us focus on a greater good than our own comfort or selfishness. 3, connect with the Spirit. Pray, study the Bible, take communion, connect through nature. However you do it, connecting with the Spirit reminds us that we are part of God's people who have overcome all kinds of things. Being active in a faith community offers us people to encourage, support, challenge, and disciple us. The Spirit offers us security to dream, to hope, to experience joy. 4, discover something new. Keep a nimble mind and a generous curiosity. If we believe that God is King of all that is, was, and ever will be, then new things engage us with God in new ways. It reminds us that God is always present, that change is good. The world has been and always will be continually changing. And God is right there in the thick of it. 5, allow yourself a pleasure. God made us, all of us, our emotions and feelings, and pleasure is one of the things sewn into the very fabric of our souls. Take the hot bath, watch the mindless television show, eat the chocolate. Pleasure puts us in touch with our God-given senses and allows us to believe that suffering is not permanent. 6, pay attention to the good. There are glimmers of it all around us. But humans have a negativity bias. Science has shown that we remember traumatic events more than positive events. We recall insults more than praise. We think about negative things more often than positive. Pay attention to the good. 7, limit negativity. And yes, I am giving you permission to avoid the negative Nellies of the world. You can't eliminate them from your life, but you also do not need to allow them to wreak havoc on your life. So know your limits. set boundaries. And lastly, number 8, focus your efforts on what brings meaning to your life. This will be different for each of us, thanks be to God, because the world would be a hot mess if we all clamored for the same things. The Holy Spirit has gifted us all uniquely and called us all individually to some small segment of the work of God's kingdom. And when we all allow ourselves to center our attention on the things that are meaningful to us, the pieces of that puzzle start to fall in place. Oh yeah, there's one more thing. For optimal results, you need to have the right equipment. A heart changed by God's love. You need to have joy. You need to have an adult-sized hula hoop. I did it. I told Bob that's going to make some pastor's blooper reel someday, but there you go. I definitely have not yet mastered the hula hoop, but it has brought joy bubbling to the surface. In this season, as we wait the birth of Jesus in Bethlehem, find the joy. And there's good news. Oh, I forgot. There's my video. Shoot. She's my trainer. Watch. That's my trainer. When we participate in sanctifying grace, letting the Spirit shape our lives based on Jesus' commandment to love God and neighbor, joy will be the product, even in the midst of chaos. So there's good news for you. If you practice joy in this season, it's gonna be contagious, and you'll be surrounded by it. Amen?